Alright, shower update number 10 or something like that. I got all the backer board up, as you can see, and since then I've taped up all the seams with some like fiberglass tape or something like that. It's not regular drywall tape, something special. And then I just used thin set to hold in all the tape and seal all the seams and joints. You can see I got my niches built. I have the bench, same thing, all seamed and taped and everything. I also went over every screw hole with some thin set. I'm not sure if that's required. I just did it so that way the paint that I'm going to paint over top of this, the waterproof paint, is going to have something a little bit better to stick to. Because this board I used, you don't have to paint it all, so I'm not going to. I'm just going to go right over top of all the screw holes. And I want that paint to have something good to stick to, which this thin set looks like that'll do the trick. And other than that, I caulked around the bottom. According to this, I've read a lot of different things online, whether you should or should not caulk the bottoms here. This Hardy Board Hydro Defense that I used specifically says on the directions to use a 100% silicone caulk that's mold resistant and to caulk up that bottom seam. So that's what I did. I did that the whole way around to make sure, I guess, no water goes up underneath. You don't want, even though when I put the liner in, the liner probably comes, yeah, you can see it. So the liner is about this high. So really, there's no way water's gonna ever get that full. If water pulled up that high, it would come over the curb and flood my whole basement out. So that's not gonna ever be an issue. But you don't want water to wick up behind the board and cause issues there. So I guess that's the reason I decided to go with the silicone, to prevent that from happening. And next up, I'm going to just go over and smooth out some of this stuff. I kind of did a sloppy job with some of the spackling or whatever it's called with the thin set, putting on the tape and seams. So I'm going to go over and just kind of clean it up a little bit. And then after that, I'm going to start doing the Hydro Defense, this stuff, Aqua Defense. So this is the stuff I'm going to be using to paint all the seams and all the screw holes to ensure it stays watertight. One other thing, I also siliconed around this whole junction box where the plumbing is coming in, along with around where the pipes come through. I may have gotten a little excessive on that. Might not be ideal. I don't think it's going to cause a problem. It should definitely help me or prevent any water getting in there, which is all I was going for. Hopefully it doesn't cause any issues with like the tiling, because like I said, I did get a little sloppy with that. I don't think it will though. If it does, I can always peel it out. Silicone's kind of forgiving that way. If you do mess it up, you can kind of remove it. It's not that big of a deal normally. Alright, so yeah, the next update I'm going to give you guys, this will all be painted basically with that green looking waterproof paint. So I'll check back then, and after that it'll be pretty much ready to put the tile in. So it's getting close finally. Alright, so I got all the seams and holes from the screws painted up with the waterproofing paint. I put 2 coats on already. As you can see, the second coat's still kind of drying. I don't know if the camera will pick it up. You can see there's the light areas and dark areas. The dark areas are what dried already. The light areas are not dry. So you can see here, I kind of, like, that's my first coat that dried already, and then the bluer is the second coat. So it came out all right, I guess. Worked about how I expected it to. I had just enough to finish. Literally not like a drop left. I just slopped some around here, a little extra on the wall with like 1 or 2 paintbrushes I had that was kind of extra. I started off over here just because this doesn't really need to be waterproofed. I'm probably gonna have a glass wall right here for the shower surround. So this was kind of unnecessary to even waterproof at all. But I just wanted to test it out and see how it would spread and how much coverage I would get out of it, because I started off with about half a bucket of this stuff that my parents gave me that was left over from a shower remodel they did. So yeah, I used about half a gallon to do this shower, and I did 2 coats. Tomorrow I will come check on it, and I'm just gonna look really close around like the cracks, all the seams and things like that, to make sure that it dried properly. I know there's issues. For example, if you really fill it too thick in the corners or something like that, what will happen is the walls or the sides will dry before the thick puddle that you have in the corner, and as it dries, it'll separate from that corner, so you'll end up getting a crack, and that's the last place you want any cracks. But I think it's fairly common that people do that because they actually slop extra in there thinking they're doing themselves a favor by, you know, having extra coverage, but really it creates a 2-part drying process, which eventually causes a crack. So I'm gonna come through tomorrow after I let it dry and just make sure that there are no cracks or anything like that, but I was pretty mindful of it, so I don't expect there to be any. One last thing I wanted to point out was that I did paint around this border perimeter of the shower pan here. The reason I did that was just in case there's any little pinholes or anything in that silicone that I put down, that this paint, waterproofing paint, will fill in those little pinholes and just make sure that everything's good and sealed down there.